Men, the most unsettling discovery in modern relationships isn't finding obvious evidence of betrayal. It's recognizing subtle digital patterns that reveal the woman you're with is maintaining a completely separate reality online, managing multiple personas, hiding entire aspects of her life, and creating carefully constructed digital boundaries that protect whatever she's keeping hidden from your awareness. Before we dive in, hit subscribe, smash that like and hype button, and drop a comment if you've ever discovered someone was living a completely different life online than what they showed you in person. Your experience might help another man recognize these digital red flags before investing deeply in someone who's maintaining separate realities. Habit 1. The phone angle shield. Always positioned away from your view. When her phone is constantly angled away from you, tilted at precise angles when she's using it, screen positioned so you couldn't possibly see it even accidentally, physically turned away, or covered when notifications appear, and this protective positioning happens reflexively every single time she touches her device. She's not respecting normal privacy boundaries. She's protecting specific content she doesn't want you to see, creating physical barriers between you and her digital life, because that digital life contains information that would contradict the reality she's presenting to you. What this reveals? This reveals active concealment rather than passive privacy. Everyone deserves phone privacy, but there's difference between not handing someone your unlocked phone and systematically positioning your device to prevent even accidental glimpses of your screen. When someone reflexively shields their phone screen from your view in every situation, they're protecting something specific, and that protection is constant because the hidden content is always present. Notice if the shielding is consistent or situational. If she's comfortable with her phone, visible when browsing certain apps, but immediately angles it away when specific notifications appear, or when switching to particular apps, the selective shielding reveals which digital spaces contain the content she's hiding. General privacy is consistent. Specific concealment varies based on what's currently displayed. Watch how she reacts if you're near her while she's using her phone. If she immediately locks the screen, switches apps, or physically moves away to create distance, these reflexive defensive behaviors reveal anxiety about you seeing something. People who aren't hiding anything might value privacy, but don't display panicked protective reflexes when their partner is simply nearby. Habit 2. The notification silence. Everything is always on, do not disturb. When her phone is perpetually silenced, no notification sounds, no vibration, no visible previews when messages arrive, everything set to do not disturb, or completely muted at all times when you're together. And this isn't her general preference across all contexts, but specifically happens in your presence. She's not preferring peaceful environment. She's preventing you from seeing who's contacting her, how frequently, and what those messages say, because the notification content would reveal communications she's hiding. What this reveals? This reveals systematic control of information flow to protect hidden relationships or activities. Notifications are inherently revealing. They show contact names, message previews, app sources, and frequency of communication. When someone keeps everything silenced specifically around you, they're preventing accidental exposure through notifications that would raise questions about who they're communicating with or what apps they're using. Notice if her notification settings change based on who's present. If she has normal notifications when alone or with friends but everything goes silent when you appear, the selective silencing reveals she's specifically protecting information from you rather than preferring quiet generally. This targeted information control shows intentional concealment. Watch what happens if a notification does appear despite her settings. If a call comes through or a notification bypasses her silencing and she immediately dismisses it without acknowledgement, acts uncomfortable, or provides vague explanation about who it was, her reaction to unexpected exposure reveals anxiety about you knowing her communication patterns. Habit 3. The app switcher speed, lightning-fast screen changes. When you approach her while she's on her phone and she switches apps with remarkable speed, closing whatever she was viewing and opening something innocuous in the fraction of a second before you could see what was actually on screen. And this lightning-fast switching happens consistently whenever you come near her device. She's not coincidentally finishing with one app right when you approach. She's monitoring your proximity and maintaining constant readiness to hide her actual digital activity, which means that activity needs hiding. What this reveals? This reveals practiced concealment behavior and conscious awareness that her digital activity would be problematic if discovered. The speed and consistency of the app switching shows this isn't random coincidence. It's rehearsed defensive behavior. When someone has developed reflexive patterns of hiding their phone activity from their partner, that activity is deliberately being kept secret, and the concealment has become automatic through repetition. Notice if you ever actually see what she's using her phone for without the switching behavior. If you can never identify what app she's actually spending time on because she's always just checking email or reading news when you look, but you know she spends hours on her phone throughout the day, the consistent presentation of innocuous activities while hiding her actual usage reveals systematic deception about her digital life. Watch her body language when switching apps. If there's visible tension, quick glances to see if you noticed what was on screen, or relief after successfully switching before you could see. These emotional responses reveal high stakes around keeping her actual phone activity hidden. Innocent activity doesn't produce anxiety responses when potentially observed. Habit 4. The multiple account mystery, references to apps she claims not to use. When you notice evidence of social media or messaging apps you didn't know she used, someone mentions seeing her on an app she's never mentioned, you notice app notifications for platforms she claims not to have, or she references something from an app she's supposedly not active on, and when you ask about it, she becomes defensive, minimizes her usage, or claims they're old accounts she never uses. Despite evidence of recent activity, she's not just maintaining private social media. She's operating separate digital identities you're not aware of. What this reveals? This reveals intentional compartmentalization of her digital presence. Having multiple accounts or secret social media presence isn't inherently problematic, but hiding their existence from your partner while actively using them suggests those spaces contain content, connections, or communications she doesn't want you aware of. The secrecy around these accounts reveals they serve purposes that conflict with the relationship she's presenting to you. Notice how she explains the existence of accounts you discover. If explanations are vague, dismissive, or inconsistent, "Oh, that's an old account I never use, despite recent posts," or "I barely go on there," despite evidence of regular activity. The gap between her explanation and reality reveals deception. People who have legitimate separate accounts for work or specific interests explain them clearly without defensive minimization. Watch whether she grants you access to some social media while hiding others. If she's comfortable with you following her on Instagram but there's a TikTok you don't know about, or a Twitter presence she's never mentioned, the selective transparency reveals intentional curation of what you're allowed to see versus what she keeps hidden. Full digital life isn't the problem. Secret segments of digital life are. Habit 5. The location settings control. GPS and sharing features always disabled. When all her location services are perpetually disabled, no location sharing with you despite being in relationship, Find My Friends not activated, social media posts never tagged with location, photo metadata stripped, and any suggestion of location sharing is met with resistance about privacy concerns. She's not protecting herself from general surveillance concerns. She's preventing you from having any ability to verify where she actually is versus where she tells you she is, because those locations don't consistently match. What this reveals? This reveals need to maintain unverifiable mobility that allows her to be places she doesn't disclose. Location sharing in relationships is normal and provides mutual security and convenience. When someone adamantly refuses any form of location transparency with their partner while maintaining that transparency with others, friends who can see her location, or when she previously shared location but suddenly stopped, the resistance to location transparency reveals she needs mobility without verification. Notice if her resistance to location sharing is absolute or selective. If she'll share live location with friends for safety during nights out but refuses to share with you her partner, the selective restriction reveals she specifically needs to hide her whereabouts from you. Also watch whether her location settings became more restricted after the relationship began. Increased privacy from partner specifically suggests new need to hide locations. Watch whether stories she tells about where she's been matched digital evidence when it accidentally appears. If she says she was at one place, but a background detail in a photo or an accidental location tag reveals she was somewhere else, the mismatch between stated and actual locations reveals why she needs location privacy. She's not consistently where she claims to be. Habit 6. The message preview paranoia. Extreme reaction to anyone seeing her screen. When someone accidentally sees her phone screen, you glance over and happen to see a message, her screen is briefly visible to others in public, or she's showing you something and a notification appears, and her reaction is intense anxiety, immediate screen covering, anger at the accident, or elaborate explanation for innocuous content. She's not reasonably wanting privacy. She's revealing through disproportionate reaction that her messages contain information that would be highly problematic if seen, and the intensity of her response reveals how much she's protecting. What this reveals? This reveals high-stakes concealment where exposure would be damaging. Normal messages don't produce panic responses when accidentally glimpsed. When someone has extreme reactions to any possibility of their messages being seen, even accidentally, they're protecting content that would significantly disrupt their presented reality. The magnitude of the reaction reveals the magnitude of what's being hidden. Notice if her anxiety is specific to certain contacts or general to all messages. If she's fine with you seeing messages from most people, but panics when specific names appear, those specific contacts are the source of problematic content. If anxiety is general across all communications, she's maintaining a broadly deceptive digital presence where most of her communications would reveal information she's hiding. Watch how she handles the aftermath if you did accidentally see something. If she provides extensive unprompted explanation for something that seemed innocuous, the over-explanation reveals anxiety that you saw something revealing. If she asks repeatedly what you saw or whether you read the message, her need to assess exposure reveals consciousness that her messages contain problematic content.